I'll connect it to my plug.
All right, thank you very much, Kenneth Awochi Dakon, for the show business segment here on the Marketplace. All right, so that's how we part company on the Marketplace. I am Pius Kujo Baka. For more stories, do log on to myjoyonline.com/business. Do have a lovely weekend. Bye.
Thanks for staying with us, everyone. We are going to shoot straight to our first story for this afternoon, to do with fuel prices and a projection by the World Bank. Well, the World Bank, in its October 2023 commodity market outlook, has indicated or warned that the Hamas-Israel conflict could escalate oil prices. It has identified the possibility of oil prices surging beyond $150 a barrel, a scenario that could lead to significant increases in both energy and food prices, reminiscent of the price spikes witnessed a year earlier due to the Russian invasion of Ukraine. Energy strategist, also CEO of Eureka Solutions, Dr. Yusuf Sulemana, joins me on Zoom to discuss this. Good afternoon to you. I remember we talked about this some weeks ago when the conflict started. I feared that the prices could hit $100 a barrel for crude oil, but the World Bank is projecting $150. How seriously should we take these concerns from the World Bank?
Thank you very much, and good afternoon to you, Darrell, and good afternoon to your viewers in Ghana and across the globe. Thank you for having me once again. Indeed, as we rightly mentioned the last time, these projections are not out of place, and it is something that policymakers will have to stand by and plan ahead of time. And the reason being that if you look at the historical antecedents following Israel and Palestine conflicts, what I said the last time, I said with the current, conflict and the way it is, if it stays as it is within these brackets, as the usual Hamas, Israel conflicts. What I said the last time, I said with the current, conflict and the way it is, if it stays as it is within these brackets, as the usual Hamas, Israel conflict, then we're not going to see any impact on global oil prices at this moment. However, I did prices at the moment at this moment. However, I did prices at the moment at this moment. However, I did calculations. It could be unintended consequences where we have escalation that nobody has even expected, which will translate into a regional conflict. And as we speak now, that we are gravitating towards that. All regional players are on high alert. If it tends to Israel-Arab conflict, then that becomes serious. And if you remember, I told you a situation that happened in the 1970s. That was a serious situation that we don't want to bring ourselves in to think about. What happened then was the fact that it was similar conflicts. In fact, that took regional dimensions where all the Arabs came together and they did what they call a phenomenal oil embargo. Oil embargo means that OPEC guys said they were not going to export oil to the West, and oil quickly moved from $3 to $12, almost 300%. And I mentioned that if it just pulls that what we have now, I don't think the global energy community is ready for any oil prices in the 3 decades, because as we speak now, even oil in the 90s, we are struggling to cope with inflationary pressure. And so, yes, Russia crisis, the premium is not fully over. In fact, that's actually accountable for why oil is in the 90s. And if we should have this conflict escalation to proportion that is unimaginable, then we're going to have a double whammy, and I don't think the global energy community may be ready for that. Darrell.
Talk to us about the implications should the Israel-Hamas conflict escalate and should prices reach $150 a barrel as the World Bank is projecting.
Yeah, that's going to be huge, especially vulnerable economies like the global south economies, the developing nations, African continent, and other developing nations, because we are mostly import-dependent nations. And so we're going to have it in two perspectives. Number one, those who are heavily dependent on oil imports or petroleum product imports and we have any disruption in the flow from the east to the west, that's going to be huge. And pump prices is something that we cannot arrest, and that would translate to inflationary pressures. That's number one point of it. That's the direct impact. The indirect impact, again, when this thing happen, and probably because it's a global phenomenon, all economies will put in measures to be able to stem the tide. And if you remember, the Western world, what I call the global North economies, they are not going to relent on the effort to put a cap on inflationary pressures. And what they do is that they will go back to increase in policy rates. And rather, when policy rates within these global North economies increases, their currencies get strengthened. And when their currencies get strengthened, the direct impact on our own currencies is going to be dire. So that's what I'm saying, these two folds. If we have inflationary pressures going, we're going to be impacted within our pumps. If you have currency, fluctuations in terms of these global North economies, such as US and the European Union, they increase the policy rate, their currencies are going to be strengthened, and that will have a huge impact on our currencies. And you can imagine, if you look at what the consumer pays at the pump, the currency or the exchange rate is a key factor, and then the commodity price is a key factor. So if exchange rates will not work to our favor, and the commodity prices will not also work to our favor, I think it's going to be huge. And Darrell, I'll mention one other thing. What the global community may be missing is the fact that this kind of conflicts could have impact on a global choke point we call the Strait of Hormuz. Strait of Hormuz controls about 20 to 30% of the global hydrocarbon flow from the Middle East to the West. And this area is very critical. And if this conflict escalates, we don't pray that it goes to that extent. But if it escalates, this is controlled by Iran and other players. In fact, it is in between the Middle Eastern countries. So if it escalates and that global choke point is blocked, rather it's going to be zero. We are just hoping that things shouldn't escalate to this point. But I can say that we have to be very careful, and we have to just pray that cool heads actually will prevail, that this conflict will come to an end as soon as possible.
So the World Bank in that report recommends that policymakers in developing countries take measures to manage the potential increase in headline inflation. It also advises against trade restrictions such as export bans on food and fertilizers. These measures can often intensify price volatility and heighten food insecurity. Your thoughts on this?
Yeah, that's factual. And I will always say that as much as this global geopolitics are remote, the cascading impact on every local economy will be dire if it does take the heavy toll on the economies. And yes, I always say that Africa and African continent, Ghana, they say our vulnerability is our excessive dependence on external, importation of commodities. So what we need to do is that the World Bank is spot on that. They are just telling us that we have to be self-reliant, and we mentioned it severally. They also mentioned of this trade route. If you remember the last time, I mentioned the fact that Ghana is a host to what we call AFTAC. AFTAC has been formed for how many years? And I think the impact is not being felt now. So what I would urge is that we have the right conduit, and AFTAC is number one. If you have AFTAC and it works very well, then trade barriers are broken, trade barriers are seamlessly, trade restrictions are seamlessly removed. I think it's going to help a lot. So if we begin to trade among ourselves, most of this external impact, we're not going to feel it. And that I guess so surprised that African continent will trade more with external parties than we trade among ourselves. What is wrong with us? I think that's a problem there. We need to look into that. And so yes, the way out, the credible conduit out of this quagmire, whenever it does take hold, the center hold within the global economy, will be to be self-reliant. And we have every opportunity to do that. Let's have refineries. Let's not depend too much on importation. If we have refineries, that will help. If we make use of conduit like AFTAC, African Development Bank, and the rest, I think this is our best bet. And if we do them and make them work and work well, rather, most of this external impact, we're not going to feel them that much.
Dr. Yusuf Suleiman, thank you so much. Energy strategist, also CEO of Eureka Solutions and energy consultancy firm. I appreciate your time with us. Now, let's turn to air travel. British Airways is ruling out any plan to move all its Heathrow flights to Gatwick following the introduction of the Gatwick-Accra-Gatwick route 3 times a week. British Airways in 2021 announced a decision to move flights from the premium Heathrow Airport to Gatwick, a decision that was seriously rejected by the government. There are fears that this new Gatwick operation is part of a grand scheme to return to that plan that was abolished. But in an exclusive interview with Joy Business in London, Chief of Planning and Strategy at British Airways, Neil Allen Chernoff, said there was no such plan on the table.
Ultimately, what we were looking to do was to be able to grow our capacity between London and Ghana. And by adding those 3 additional frequencies, we were able to increase our seats by about 35%. And in fact, we've already announced that in April of next year, we're going to go to 4 weekly flights instead of 3. And so we'll see an additional 55% increase in seat capacity. For us, when we're looking to add routes and whatever that destination is, ultimately, we look at, one, where do we have aircraft available, and is there something unique that we can provide by serving a destination from multiple airports? One of the biggest challenges we've had as we've been recovering from the pandemic was we grounded our 747 fleet. We currently have 12 less long-haul aircraft than we had pre-pandemic, and so often finding aircraft to be able to grow is really challenging for us. One of the advantages that we thought about offering the additional flights from Gatwick was if you actually look at where individuals who are flying to Accra to visit friends and family, tourism, business, or individuals from Ghana who are visiting London. There's various parts of London into which those individuals are traveling, and there's actually a large community of people where Gatwick Airport is actually more convenient for them than Heathrow. And so I think the benefit of offering that dual airport is, one, the importance of the flight to London allows us to provide some pretty unique connectivity to the United States and Canada. With Gatwick, although we do have less connectivity there, we do have a short-haul operation there, and that can provide connections to more tourist destinations around Europe. And so we think those two offer kind of a balance of choice for customers.
So I get it right, more of trying to offer connectivity to a lot of Ghanaians who are living in that part of London to connect to Accra.
Yeah, and like I said, if you look at kind of various areas where people either originate or may be visiting in London, there is a certain part and a large group of people who actually Gatwick is a much more convenient airport, and that is not necessarily, we do that across our network. As an example, we offer lots of flights to New York from London, but we also offer a flight from Gatwick because for some individuals that's a more convenient airport. Similar thing to Cape Town, similar thing to Las Vegas, to Orlando, and so it is something we do across the system.
Let's talk about price, and I know that for you it's about the routes. Price could be another responsibility, but again, what is the price difference? If I'm flying to Heathrow and Gatwick, is there any differential in terms of pricing, or it's virtually the same? For some normal passenger, they'll be thinking about price being a major decision in taking that decision to fly or not to fly.
Yeah. Look, I think price is very dynamic in the market. It depends what other airlines are offering a price, and also very dependent on supply and demand. Now, it is true that Gatwick as an airport is a less expensive airport in which to fly into, and so the cost that passengers or airlines pay at that airport is much less than Heathrow. Heathrow is one of the most expensive airports in the world, and ultimately that does end up in the ticket price. You probably would have, Mauritius recently moved their flight from Heathrow to Gatwick, and maybe part of that was around that. But one of the other things too is that if you look at the aircraft that we fly, so we're flying the 350 from Heathrow, and we're flying a 777 from Gatwick. That 777 has more economy seats. It's less premium heavy, and so that should offer kind of more access, particularly for those who are trying to fly into economy, better pricing because there'll be more seats in the market for them.
So I get the fact that if someone is flying from Gatwick to Accra, it will be less expensive than flying from Heathrow to Accra.
Well, I think, like I said, pricing is very dynamic and it depends a bit on demand. But because if you look at the way ultimately what in an airline price is what the airline charges, but then what the airport charges on top of that, and what the airport charges on top of that is less expensive at Gatwick than at Heathrow.
You mentioned Air Mauritius moving from Heathrow to Gatwick. For a lot of Ghanaians and for people who are flying from Accra to London, there's a history, and they are worried about your plan to offer more options for people who are flying to London. They fear that there could be a future plan where people who are flying from Accra to London will lose the Heathrow route. And there's a history. And so how do you diffuse those who are worried about the fact that maybe there is a grand plan in the future that people flying from Accra to London will lose the access to the Heathrow route?
Look, I can guarantee...
Every day my employees get scam emails. I wanted to protect my business and clients, so I checked out CISA's Secure Our World. They've got 4 simple ways we can protect our businesses from online threats. Learn more at cisa.gov/Secure Our World.
There is no plan to sort of start the route from, let's say, Gatwick and move the Heathrow route over to Gatwick. We've been flying to Ghana for 86 years. I looked that up recently. And look, there was a time, this goes back, I believe, 2 years ago, where we looked to move the Heathrow route to Gatwick. And at the time, that was because we were very, very constrained on capacity at Heathrow. And as we were trying to balance how can we utilize our aircraft at Gatwick, utilize our aircraft at Heathrow, we had looked at making that move. And one thing that Gatwick tends to work well is if there are more point-to-point passengers, because we do offer less connectivity than Heathrow.
All right, we're moving on from there to other stories for you this afternoon. The Bank of Ghana has revealed that more investors have expressed interest in the country's fintech sector due to the tremendous improvement in the fight against money laundering and financing of terrorism. According to the Deputy Director in charge of Fintech and Innovation at the Bank of Ghana, Clarence Blay, the central bank is taking steps to prune down such activities within the fintech space.
Figures released by the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime have shown that money laundering transactions are estimated to cost economies between $1 to $3 trillion annually, representing 2 to 5% of global GDP. To this end, the central bank says it will continue to intensify its sensitization programs for fintech companies to drive more investors to the sector. Clarence Blay is the Deputy Director, Fintech and Innovation Office at the Bank of Ghana.
As Ghanaians begin to trust and adopt fintech solutions to access financial service, it is important that we weed out potential risks in the space. It doesn't mean that we say the space is full of risks. No, risks is about potential risks in the space. It doesn't mean that we say the space is full of risks. No, risks is together discuss issues and take preemptive measures to avert potential risks in the AML CFT space. A lot of investors also have shown interest.
So there's been the many
work at hand so that together we can do the job. We are now sensitizing them. In fact, they don't seem to have any
Due to the tremendous improvement in the fight against money laundering and financing of terrorism, according to the Deputy Director in charge of Fintech and Innovation at the Bank of Ghana, Clarence Blay, the central bank is taking steps to prune down such activities within the fintech space.
Figures released by the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime have shown that money laundering transactions are estimated to cost economies between $1 to $3 trillion annually, representing 2 to 5% of global GDP. To this end, the central bank says it will continue to intensify its sensitization programs for fintech companies to drive more investors to the sector. Clarence Blay is the Deputy Director, FinTech and Innovation Office at the Bank of Ghana.
As Ghanaians begin to trust and adopt fintech solutions to access financial service, it is important that we weed out potential risks in the space. It doesn't mean that we say the space is full of risks. No, risks is about potential risks in the space. It doesn't mean that we say the space is full of risks. No, risks is together discuss issues and take preemptive measures to avert potential risks in the AML CFT space. A lot of investors also have shown interest.
So there's been the many
work at hand so that together we can do the job. We are now sensitizing them. In fact, they don't seem to have any much idea when it comes to AML CFT. So we are now sensitizing them, and this is the maiden meeting. And like I said, it's not going to be the first time. In fact, we'll keep meeting them. To ensure that they have a grip over the AML CFT issues.
The workshop brought together various players within the fintech sector.
Now, green startups have been entreated to position themselves to attract funds from financial institutions, according to Deputy Operations Manager for Green Tech Forum.
There's a lot of challenge with regards to getting funding for such businesses. Many often they apply to get unnoticed, because a lot of funding organizations are quite often focused on other projects rather than when it comes to farming or it comes to recycling and things like that. And so we are hoping that this event will throw more light on the fact that the earth is ours. This is where we live, and any innovation technology that people have developed, that is helping us to have a better ecosystem to live in, should be given the attention and possibly even gain the support to get funding for their business or initiative. Positioning, I would say that the organization being able to position themselves to attract the right type of funding. So in terms of documentation, in terms of branding, getting them informed about how they can well align their initiative business organizations such that they are able to attract the needed support.
Now, the Department of Animal Science at the University of Ghana has commenced a trial on the adaptability and growth performance of some 5 dual-purpose chicken breeds under the farmer management systems. The project, dubbed the Tropical Poultry Genetics Solution, is a 2-year genetics innovation strategy that seeks to test and identify high-producing farmer-preferred chicken genotypes. The initiative aims at reducing poverty while strengthening food and nutrient security for rural households. Here's more in this report.
Despite Ghana's poultry industry suffering varied setbacks in recent years, the demand for poultry products is on ascendancy. Reports suggest about 80% of local poultry keepers depend on indigenous scavenging chickens, which have low meat and egg producing potential. Under the Tropical Poultry Genetics Solution project, the Department of Animal Science, University of Ghana, is experimenting with new poultry breed for higher production performance. Ricky Abajipoku is the deputy project lead.
The performance of these local indigenous chickens are quite poor in terms of productivity. Small body weight, give you fewer eggs, even though they are adaptive to the environment. So there was the need to research into how best we can improve these breeds, local breeds, blend them with some of the commercial, and then get good performing birds. But when you do those engineering, you need to do some trial on field, because you've done the engineering all right, but it might not necessarily work on the field. You understand? So there was the need for us to do this field trial to see the adaptiveness of these new breeds that we are bringing on board.
The new breeds are a hybrid of exotic and indigenous poultry species reared for both meat and eggs. Dr. Raphael Ayizanga is with the Department of Animal Science, UG.
We are going to try Sasso, Noela, Habad 1, Habad 2, and then Corolla, which so the first phase we had Habad, which we mixed up, and then Corolla. This time we are adding 3 more, the Sasso, the Noela, and we are going to separate the Habad into Habad 1 and 2. We are trying all these lines because they have been tried elsewhere and found to They have increased body weight. Weight at maturity has been much bigger than what we had, and then they are also laying more eggs. And we thought this one will give our farmers more money. What we have now, they are adapted more to our low input systems. Therefore, they don't give us as much as we want. And we want to move away from, as I said earlier, farming as a way of life to farming as a business or a model for poverty alleviation.
Ashanti Regional Livestock Officer Ajman Prempo Fori is upbeat about the project's benefits for the region.
With this intermediate base, the little feed you give, the little care you give, it is also giving you the maximum yield you want. So they are, one, resilient to diseases, they can scavenge for feed, and the little feed you can support it with, you get your resource. So coming into the middle of the local chicken and the foreign chicken, I think this, of course, is going to help our local farmers make a headway in production.
A beneficiary of the first phase, Comfort Champoma, a poultry farmer at Achim Ejampoma, explains the project has improved her livelihood.
It wasn't easy initially, but I was able to make profits to invest into the business. I have more birds for sale in December.
Okay, let's say
the trial is expected to be conducted across 7 regions under 3.
It's been a while we did this. Up next, your money tip on Money Lab.
Hello and welcome to Money Lab. My name is Kofi Poli, Chief Operations Officer of People's Pension Trusts. We are continuing our pension tidbits on Money Lab. In our last episode, we looked at how 2 types of pensions. Today, we are going to look at reasons for having a pension plan. In fact, we are being told that by 2050, 1 in every 5 persons will be 60 years and above in developing countries. It is also a known fact that life expectancy is going up, and therefore there's a need for us to plan our life beyond our working life. And this is why we need to look at income security in our old age, and that's how pension fits in. We will continue the reasons in our next episode. Thank you for being with us.
All right, get up to date on the day's latest stories on myjoyonline.com/business. There you go. Bailout package, IMF Executive Board to meet in 3rd week of November. That's according to the Finance Minister. myjoyonline.com/business. We're back same time tomorrow.
Every day, my company gets scam phishing emails trying to get money or sensitive info. I wanted to protect my employees and my clients, so I checked out CISA's Secure Our World. They've got simple ways we can protect our businesses from online threats. First, teach employees to recognize and report phishing. Next, require strong passwords plus multi-factor authentication. And finally, turn on automatic updates for your business software. To learn more, go to CISA at cisa.gov/Secure Our World.
Looking for a fun way to win up to 25 times your money this football season? Test your skills on Prize Picks, the most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Just select 2 or more players, pick more or less on their projection for a wide variety of statistics, and place your entry. It's as easy as that. If you have the skills, you can turn $10 into $250 with just a few taps. Easy gameplay, quick withdrawals, and an enormous selection of players and stat options are what make Prize Picks the #1 daily fantasy sports app. Ready to test your skills? Join the Prize Picks community of more than 7 million football fans who have already signed up. Right now, Prize Picks will match your first deposit up to $100. Just visit prizepicks.com/get100. and use code GET100. That's code GET100 at prizepicks.com/get100 for a first deposit match up to $100. Prize Picks, daily fantasy sports made easy.
Every day, my company gets scam phishing emails trying to get money or sensitive info. I wanted to protect my employees and my clients, so I checked out CISA's Secure Our World. They've got simple ways we can protect our businesses from online threats. First, teach employees to recognize and report phishing. Next, require strong passwords plus multi-factor authentication. And finally, turn on automatic updates for your business software. To learn more, go to CISA at CISA.gov/Secure Our World.
Hi, welcome to the Marketplace. Coming up, Ghanaian businesses unhappy about multiple taxes which they say are crippling the operations. We have a report from the 24th Annual General Meeting of the Association of Ghana Industries.
It's indeed a good concept in principle in spreading the tax net, but perhaps we should have other ways of incentivizing the small informal sector operators so that they'll be willing to pay.
Also coming up with a budget set to be presented in a couple of weeks, which taxes should stay, which taxes should go. We'll discuss on the Joy Business Summit. An indigenous airline, Africa World, celebrates a milestone of 4 million passengers. What next for the airline?
World Airlines, you can expect better service, definitely. We will offer you more destinations beginning in 2024. We will offer you better service once we get the new equipment in. They'll be bigger than the ones we operate.
My name is Darryl Kwao. Thanks for being with us. Details coming up. And thanks for staying with us, everyone. First up, Ghanaian industries are apprehensive and unhappy with the withholding tax system rolled out by the government. They are unhappy with tax non-compliance in the informal sector, leaving industries with the burden of absorbing the expensive tax rates. Some members of the Association of Ghana Industries in the Ashanti, Bono, Ahafo and Bono East regions say multiple taxation is crippling their businesses. Emmanuel Bright Kweku was at the 24th Annual General Meeting of the Association and has filed this report.
Years ago, the withholding tax system allows a withholding agent, usually companies or entities, to deduct tax when paying another person for goods or a service rendered. The withheld amount is later accounted for to the Revenue Authority. However, many businesses, especially small and medium-scale enterprises, bemoan the tax system is crippling their business. At 824th Annual General Meeting, members of the Association of Ghana Industries in the Ashanti, Bono, Ahafo, and Bono East regions were discontent with the rollout of the tax system. They argue the informal sector doesn't buy into the idea of withholding some taxes for services rendered.
From experience, withholding taxes, it is difficult for companies to collect. Because when you say, you go in your import fee and cry back. Trucks are ready, you didn't remember back. A whole lot. Your core magazine, your distribution.
GRA knows very well the corporate institutions are unable to collect the withholding taxes, but they keep demanding it from us. When we seek the services of the informal sector, they are not ready to have the taxes deducted.
Although they believe it's a laudable tax system, members suggest an expansion of the tax net for effective implementation and revenue generation. Seth Chuma Kwabwa, a CEO of AGI.
I think the challenge is that the informal sector is very strong and very big in Ghana. When you have such a broad informal sector and you want to bring them to the tax net, it's not easy. The withholding tax is indeed a good concept in principle in spreading the tax net, but perhaps we should have other ways of incentivizing the small informal sector operators so that they'll be willing to pay. And if they all contribute, then it expands the tax net and it also reduces the pressure on the formal sector that is buying the services or wares of this informal sector. I think we need to really look into it and see how best we can encourage the informal sector to contribute a lot more through proper arrangements that is easier to comply. I think that is very key.
Meanwhile, some AGI members are demanding proper utilization of taxes paid to the government for social and economic development.
Taxes, but first, now we will be here. We are say here, I come on with the tax. Now,
I know the taxes collected were used for social development, but now nothing like that is happening.
As part of its constitutional mandates, President of the local chapter, Kwesi Nyamicha, is promising a continuous and effectual discharge of duties by the executive body.
No, the plans we have, like I said, is to make sure we sit down, we make sure we do our policies as businesses and push it up to government and make sure government knows how they could do to help us move our businesses forward. That's what we could do.
For Joy News, my name is Emmanuel Bright Kweku.
All right, so the Association of Ghana Industries raising issues with taxes. Yesterday we heard from the Ghana National Chamber of Commerce and Industry also raising issues with taxes. So here to talk about taxes is tax analyst Francis Timoboy. As you may have seen in that report we just aired, businesses are unhappy about the many taxes and are pushing for relevant taxes in the 2024 budget, which we expect to be presented in a couple of weeks. That's on that subject for the Joy Business Summit this afternoon. Great to have you in studio. We always talk on Zoom. And so we are going to talk about taxes. I want to start from, because we know that some new taxes were introduced in the 2023 budget. How negatively have they impacted the business community, do you think?
So I think if you listen to the feedback from the business community, there appears to be some potential challenges in the system. Mm-hmm. Recently, KPMG and the United Nations Development Program, they did some survey among business community, and then the feedback was that this upcoming budget, they are expecting some review and changes to be made to those that were introduced in the 2023 budget. And I think that if you have such feedback from the business community, it means that there's some potential challenges that came with it when we introduced those taxes. But largely, they were influenced by the IMF program. You realize that 2023 was very heavy on taxes. We rolled out several tax compliance in addition to new taxes. The condition was that there should be medium to long-term programs to ensure that we boost our revenue collection. Around Africa, if you check, Ghana appears to be the lowest in terms of how much taxes we get from our total gross domestic product. So clearly, we've put our hands under the IMF program. So the taxes were some way, somehow needed, if you ask me, because the IMF were looking for some matrices. and those were not there. So they thought that we should either go on full rollout of tax compliance or introduce new taxes. And I think that's what we are seeing in the business community.
And so these taxes, should I say, are needed right now because of the current economic situation that we find ourselves in. And so is it the opposition that we have seen, is it because there was a lack of engagement, there was a lack of sensitization on the part of the government to make, for instance, the business community understand that this is very critical if we want to keep the economy afloat?
So I think largely yes. Look, consultation is very critical in every tax policy implementation. If you allow the people who have been affected by those taxes to have a hand in what is going to be implemented, number one, it creates some transparency and accountability. And again, you are able to get compliance, full when you are implementation, because I was part of the people who suggested and implemented. But what do we see? In our case, sometimes we roll out a tax before we even start engagement. Look at what happened in the A-levy. So I have seen Ministry of Finance sending some letters out to people and say, okay, look, we need input. But it appears it's just one way. There's no feedback. So if I keep on suggesting and you don't take my suggestions, then clearly I won't be happy with the decision you take. And so for me, I think we even saw it in Parliament. Parliamentarians were fighting when the VAT was increased.
Yeah.
So there's that division even if in the House of Parliament. So engagement may be done, but I think that the level is really not what we need to have effective policy implementation with our tax policies.
And as we look forward to the 2024 budget, there's already talk about, from the business committee again, about the taxes, and they are pushing for relevant taxes. I want your thoughts on what you think the government should do when it comes to taxes. For instance, the Association of Ghana Industries raised issues with the informal sector, for instance, saying they are not compliant when it comes to taxes. You should rather be looking there, not charging us more.
That's true. And you see, the informal sector is a very complex area. The last time I was walking through Makola, and they are not organized. Taxation is based on how much income you've earned. If you are unable to tax those income, you go the indirect tax way. Indirect tax affects everybody. And so, yes, we have seen some indirect tax policies that have been rolled out. We believe, or I personally believe, that we need to, reshape those taxes. For example, in 2018, we decoupled the VAT from the GET Fund and NHIL. That created a whole cost component, about 6% for businesses. Businesses are supposed to be producing unit, they are not consumers. And so mostly, if you pass an indirect tax, it's supposed to be paid by the consumer. But if you allow them to keep those costs, it increases the cost of production. And if they are unable to pass it on to consumers, at the end of the day, then you are crippling the production unit. Meanwhile, the tax is supposed to be paid by consumers. And that's a problem. So we've argued that, look, let businesses get a deduction of those cost components. That's why these businesses are crying. The informal sector in Ghana, because of the complex nature of it, you don't know whether you should do a flat rate. You don't know whether you should go after them or arrest them. Some people, today you see him in Makola, the next day he's in Bosokai. It's quite complex. And it's so easy to get money and escape from the tax net. Meanwhile, they contribute the largest. So until we have been able to come out with clear guidelines, policy documents, say this is how we are going to deal with the informal sector, we're going to continue to have problems. And the people, the taxable unit in the basket are going to be very small. And that's why we are feeling that the taxes are very heavy on us.
Did you foresee a review on the part of government? What's your gut feeling about this? And also based on the fact that there are IMF conditionalities, do you think the government is going to review some of these taxes?
It would have been good the government does it, but because of the conditionalities, I doubt if we have that free hand. The reason is that we still have a lot of catch-up to do. Look at government expenditure and look at the revenue we are getting. Consider even the tax to GDP ratio, which the IMF have always been focusing on. If you look at their report, I think paragraph 23, they were saying that our major problem has been our weak revenue mobilization. So they are waiting for us to catch up with the African average, which is 16%. Currently, we do 13.4%. So we have a lot to do. So I doubt if we will review, if government will be able to review it, because it's just 6 months old when we implemented these taxes. So IMF is keenly looking at, if you take it off, what are you going to replace? It's a critical situation.
What would be your suggestion to the government in dealing with this? And for instance, the ESA, for instance, I'm reading, has called for a further reduction in e-levy. Is that practical?
Look, a reduction in tax rates does not necessarily mean that tax revenue is going to increase. Mm-hmm. There is something in economics we call the Laffer curve. The Laffer curve tells us that there is that optimal rate that will generate the optimum revenue. So the product that we seek to tax, how elastic is it? Such that when we reduce it, we expect an increase in revenue. Yes, it could be, but I think we need a lot of data to make that judgment. We may reduce it, it may not necessarily, but it could also be. So for me, I think that what we can do is to go back to some of the policies that we did in 2018. And I keep saying that the VAT, we need to look at how we do it. Okay. We should allow the business community to produce. And even if we decide to take the input VAT and allow them to claim it, I believe that it will expand the business production system. And the business community will have some free capital to operate.
Well, my final question would be what the government should be doing in terms of engagement with the business community. Obviously, they're unhappy with their taxes. And so as they prepare to present the 2024 budget, what should be the engagement? What should they be telling the business community? How should they make them understand that these taxes are critical at this point if we want the economy to advance?
I think that we should not just be taking input from them. We should also give them feedback. Have you realized that in Ghana, we only get to...
Looking for a fun way to win up to 25 times your money this football season? Test your skills on Prize Picks, the most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Just select 2 or more players, pick more or less on their projection for a wide variety of statistics, and place your entry. It's as easy as that. If you have the skills, you can turn $10 into $250 with just a few taps. Easy gameplay, quick withdrawals, and an enormous selection of players and stat options are what make Prize Picks the #1 daily fantasy sports app. Ready to test your skills? Join the Prize Picks community of more than 7 million football fans who have already signed up. Right now, Prize Picks will match your first deposit up to $100. Just visit prizepicks.com/get100 and use code GET100. That's code GET100 at prizepicks.com/get100 for a first deposit match up to $100. Prize Picks, daily fantasy sports made easy.
Every day, my company gets scam phishing emails trying to get money or sensitive info. I wanted to protect my employees and my clients, so I checked out CISA's Secure Our World. They've got simple ways we can protect our businesses from online threats. First, teach employees to recognize and report phishing. Next, require strong passwords plus multi-factor authentication. And finally, turn on automatic updates for your business software. To learn more, go to CISA at CISA.gov/Secure Our World.
Tax policies during the budget presentation. In some countries, it's not like that.
Yeah.
You let the business community know about it ahead of time. Let us make input. This is the tax we need for this particular thing. Again, transparency is important. Sometimes taxpayers feel that we don't see transparency in the taxes we pay. And therefore, there is that serious resistance. Of course, that's human nature. If I give you money, I don't know what the money is being used for. Clearly, people will oppose it. So, constructive engagement. And I also believe that the authorities must be independent. I mean, they must have independent minds. It doesn't mean that we should always take what the business community are saying. We just have to balance the equation that the public interest is what should be the ultimate goal.
Francis Timor-Boy, great to have you in studio to talk about taxes. I'm sure we'll be talking a bit more in the coming days as we prepare for the 2024 budget presentation. I appreciate your time with us this afternoon. Well, let's turn to some other story. Africa World Airlines, an indigenous airline, says it will offer its customers more destinations in 2024. According to Chief Operations Officer Kwesi Oteng, the airline will continue providing quality services to clients. He spoke to Joy Business as the company celebrates its 4 millionth passenger. Here's more.
The company, as part of its 11-year operations in Ghana, expressed optimism of a robust aviation sector in the years ahead. Captain Kwesi Oteng said, regardless of the current economic challenges, the indigenous Ghanaian company is working assiduously to provide the best of services.
Since we commenced operations way back 2011-2012, Africa World Airlines has steadily captured the domestic market within Ghana. And as such, today is a day where we flew in our 4 millionth passenger.
A toast to our new college grad who fills us with so much joy, almost as much as when we're in our RV. Oh, the world is your oyster, kiddo, and ours too. Now that we're covered with Progressive, Dad and I can hop in our RV anytime we want. Might even splurge on a retractable awning. Ooh, look out. Sorry, what was I talking about?
Protect your loved one with an RV policy from Progressive. Take as little as 4 minutes to see what you could save at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates.
Ironically, he didn't come from a domestic destination, but all the way from Lagos. At the moment, as you know, we fly to all destinations in Ghana. In addition to that, we also fly to Lagos and Abuja in Nigeria. And so today is a very momentous occasion. We've had the opportunity to share with the general public, our regulators, and also our staff and management, the success of Africa World Airlines. From Africa World Airlines, you can expect better service. Definitely. We will offer you more destinations beginning in 2024. We will offer you better service once we get the new equipment in. They'll be bigger than the ones we operate. So we're looking at a new cabin offering. As the Deputy Minister mentioned, he'd love to see the orange juice back on our flights. So we're going to work towards that.
Deputy Minister of Transport Alhassan Tampuli applauded the company for their contribution to the growth of the aviation sector in Ghana.
On a number of occasions, I've been asked by my staff whether I have shares in Africa Airlines. Because anytime I'm traveling domestic, somehow I just insist that, oh, please, try and get me on Africa Airlines. And they're like, but there are other airlines. But I do the other airlines too. Just that passenger loyalty sometimes is very important. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, let me use this opportunity to commend management and staff of Africa World Airlines for remaining in business after commencing its inaugural flight in September 2012, considering the complexity of the industry.
Africa World Airlines said it will continue to connect Africa to the world through most efficient, safe and reliable air transport services.
Congratulations to the Africa World Airlines. Well, next is Let's Talk Tech. And with the continuous disruptions on the digital scene, Ghana still remains resolute with the digitalization agenda. But how well are we developing the various value chains of the digital ecosystem, from automation of business processes to the creation of an enabling system to support tech startups? Well, today on Let's Talk Tech, we discuss the state of Ghana's digital innovation agenda and the way forward. Joining us is Joy Businesses, Isaac Atasenyako joins me on Zoom to discuss this. Not on Zoom. You're actually supposed to be on Zoom, but we changed our mind. And then we said you should be in the studio with us to discuss this. So first off, just for the benefit of our audience, what is Ghana's digital innovation agenda?
Well, Daryl, it's basically to ensure that the things we do here in this country is aided by digital tools. So, for instance, the automation of business processes. Even if we take the public sector, service delivery, for instance, it should be easy for me to register a company online at the comfort of my home. It should be easy for me to pay taxes at the comfort of my home. Offering or infusing digital tools to some service delivery from, businesses, again, small businesses. Maybe I have a small business, let's say I prepare a bottle shuttle and export. I should be able to automate this process to make it easier, to make it more efficient, so I can double my output, for instance. So it's basically the infusion of digital tools in service delivery.
And so at what stage are we at right now in developing the digital ecosystem?
Well, now there are lots of things happening, lots of work being done. However, it appears to be in fragment. So, like the recent NSMQ, for instance, it's a very brilliant program.
By the way, PRESEC 1 NSMQ.
Well, Prempeh is coming stronger next year. We're coming stronger next year. It's our season next year. But well, I mean, so that the theory being taught these young ones
They will be able to develop tools that can help or drive innovation or drive business growth, for instance. So if you know what, let's say, or the application of superposition, for instance, which is being contested anyways, if you know the application of superposition and what it means, then it comes to what we can do with it to make our lives easier. So a lot of work is being done largely around policy formulation. The recent talk about AI and what we should do about it, regulation. I know there's a lot of work being done on the e-commerce space, regulation, cyber security. The authority is doing a lot of work, data protection. So the growth of the ecosystem has so many fragments that needs to be developed to enable that airtight growth without or with very little loopholes. Though we say that technology is always ahead of regulation, it's important that we look at what is being done across, the globe and in some parts of the world, in Europe, in America, and also in Asia, to be able to build one of our own that will support our growth. Otherwise, we'll keep lagging behind. Just last year, we're having conversations about BPOs and how we can infuse IT in our service delivery. AI came, a lot of things has changed. So some of these things are very important, how we develop the value chain of the ecosystem. You're a small business. Someone has an accounting software. You don't have to go through the trouble of doing your own accounting. Customer service, for instance. On the recent Joy Business Summit, a lot of talk was made about bots and how customer service bots are being used these days. How can a small business tap into that sector to make its work efficient so that they don't have to always answer calls, always respond to text messages? So essentially, it's about the development of the right policy framework to aid the growth of the sector and also to develop the value chain.
Yeah, you talked about changes, and so we have to deal with digital disruptions, right? Tell us about some of these disruptions and what we should be doing.
Sure. I think now, when you look at the whole digital landscape, AI is taking over. And so I made mention of e-commerce, about automation, and even about customer service, how AI is constantly changing the face of doing business, even the digital landscape itself. And so there are things that you would ordinarily think that maybe I can build an app to do. There's an AI tool that does that. Now, it's how we catch up, how we recognize these changes and adapt to the changes as and when. If we are going to stay where we are and wait to, get, fully grasp the whole system before we begin to roll out certain things, we may always lag behind. And so keeping abreast with the changes with AI, what's the future when it comes to AI? Just about regulation, what's new? What should the projections be in the next 10 years? What should be what should the digital landscape look like? What should we be doing now to be able to catch up with the development on the digital scene? Now, if we're able to do some of these things well, then we are sure that, we'll be able to catch up with the development and the happenings around the world, and we'll be able to create an efficient system that could boost growth and boost, our economy as a whole.
Brilliant analysis from my colleague, Isaac Atasenyako, wish he went to a better school.
No,
Blue looks good on you, so...
It's the best senior high school.
Blue looks good on you. I just wanted to point that out.
Irrespective of the NSMQ.
Blue looks good on you.
Well, it doesn't really matter.
Atasenyako, here with me. He's disappointed Prempeh lost the NSMQ.
Not at all. We'll bounce back stronger next.
Before we go, let's check out what's trending on our website, myjoyonline.com/business. That top story about you, we need a problem-solving budget to spur growth in 2024. That's former AGI president. Also, inflation in 2022 was highest in over 2 decades, according to ESEP. Get up to date on our website, myjoyonline.com/business. My name is Darryl Kwal. Thanks for watching. We will be back same time tomorrow.
Every day, my employees get scam emails. I wanted to protect my business and clients, so I checked out CISA's Secure Our World. They've got 4 simple ways we can protect our businesses from online threats. Learn more at cisa.gov/Secure Our World.
Looking for a fun way to win up to 25 times your money this basketball season? Test your skills on Prize Picks, the most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Just select 2 or more players, pick more or less on their projection for a wide variety of stats, and place your entry. It's as easy as that. If you have the skills, you can turn $10 into $250 with just a few taps. Easy gameplay, quick withdrawals, and injury insurance on your picks are what make Prize Picks the #1 daily fantasy sports app. Ready to test your skills? Join the Prize Picks community of more than 7 million players who have already signed up. Right now, Prize Picks will match your first deposit up to $100. Just visit prizepicks.com/get100 and use code GET100. That's code GET100 at prizepicks.com/get100 for a first deposit matchup to $100. Prize Picks, daily fantasy sports made easy.
The Jeep Black Friday sales event is here with incredible deals on a wide selection of Jeep 4x4 vehicles. Right now, get 15% below MSRP for an average of $11,514 under MSRP on the purchase of a 2023 Jeep Grand Cherokee 4xe Overland or Summit. Not compatible with lease offers or with any other consumer incentive offers. $11,514 average based on 15% below average MSRP from all 2023 Grand Cherokee 4xe Overland and Summit models in dealer stock. Residency restrictions apply. Take retail delivery from dealer stock by 11/30. Jeep is a registered trademark.
Hi, good afternoon. Welcome to the Marketplace. Coming up, Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta reiterates that the economy is on a recovery path as Ghana signs €42 million financing agreement with the EU to promote sustainable development.
Truly, Ghana has paid its dues. Our fiscal situation has improved. Reviews with the IMF and our program are being completed successfully and on time. And broadly speaking, we are making steady progress toward macro stability.
Also coming up, former British High Commissioner to Ghana, Nicholas Westcott, on Ghana's debt crisis, while he says Ghana's foreign loans have not been used judiciously.
Has that money that has been borrowed been put into productive investment? Some of it, yes, but clearly some of it has not. And therefore there is an obligation on the Ghanaian side to say, have we used this money well? And I know there is public debate about that. Right. Where has all the money gone that was borrowed?
Plus, government disburses $315 million from foreign direct investments to support agri sector.
We have disbursed a little over $350 million from our development partners to support ongoing agricultural projects.
My name is Darryl Kwao. Thanks for being with us. Details coming up.
The transcript, I think our last sitting, Mr. Mensah said, Mr. Chairman, my intel suggests that what was used to tape the conversation was done by the current.
Thanks for staying with us.
Financial management to ensuring stability.
Truly, Ghana has paid its dues. Our fiscal situation has improved. Reviews with the IMF and our program are being completed successfully and on time. And broadly speaking, we are making steady progress toward macro stability and debt sustainability. Additionally, our focus now as a government is on securing an economic turnaround underpinned by robust institutions and an active private sector. Viewed within that lens, today's agreements are fully aligned with both our 5-year PFM strategy and the government's growth agenda, which are anchored in the themes of 1, strengthening the macro-fiscal framework, 2, strong and ambitious structural reforms in tax policy, revenue administration, and public financial management, and 3, reforms to encourage private sector investments, strengthen growth, and create more jobs.
European Union Ambassador to Ghana, His Excellency Ichad Bazali, said this will help foster fiscal discipline and increase investor confidence.
Additionally, the inclusion of agribusiness in this agreement highlights our shared recognition of the crucial role that agriculture plays in fostering economic growth, providing livelihoods, and ensuring food security. We aim to enhance productivity, increase resilience to climate change, and promote sustainable agricultural practices that will contribute to the overall development agenda. At this juncture, let me stress that the European Union is unreservedly supporting the Planting for Food and Job 2.0 program presented by the Minister under the chairmanship of the President last week, Thursday it is, if I'm not mistaken. Specifically, we shall support 4 value chains